What's up, YouTube? It's Sunday, September 4th, 2022. Been away, been out of the game for a while. Had some big things going on in my life. I had to move, and I was in school, in and out of 3 jobs, but I'm finally pretty settled and possibly ready to start vlogging again. So anyway, let's get right to it. This is my new car, my 2015 B8.5 Audi S4. And I'm gonna go over some of the things I like about it and some of the things I don't like about it so far. I've owned it for about 6 months now, and I actually bought it at 100,000 miles. I know that's a pretty bold thing to do, but I like this car particularly because it had a couple things done. Some of the hard legwork was already taken care of by the previous owner, and so I went after this one in particular. And from what I've been seeing from other vloggers, other owners on forums, on YouTube, whatnot, apparently these hold up pretty well. Even at 100,000 miles, they're pretty bulletproof. As long as you take care of them, you do the maintenance, these are pretty good cars. Anyway, let's get right to it. So I'll start with the things I like about the car. Number 1, the pure raw performance. I mean, in terms of going in a straight line. This is actually stage 1, but when I got it, it was stock. It was pretty cool stock. It was pretty fast, I'm not gonna lie. This is a DSG, by the way. It's not manual. So it does have a 7-speed DSG. It accelerates really quickly and it shifts almost instantly, and I absolutely love that. My G37 was also automatic, and it was only a 5-speed. It was super slow. It took forever. I mean, the RPMs would sort of just bog down, and it would take almost like a full 1.5 to 2 seconds to pick back up. So yeah, I'd have to say the absolute raw performance stock was pretty cool. It was good, but it was lacking a little bit of oomph. And I decided to go stage 1 just to kind of, you know, since the mileage is so high, with it being so high and with pretty much nothing ever being done to the engine, I kind of wanted to ease into it. So I started out with stage 1, and holy fucking shit, that woke the car up so much. I mean, it wasn't the same car at all. It was much more aggressive, much more violent on the launching, on the overall aggression, the shift points, all that. It was a completely new car. There's no other way to describe it. And I highly recommend you go stage 1 on the ECU and the TCU. Don't just do the ECU, because that's what I did, and I barely felt a change with just stage 1 ECU. And I kept looking over some other vloggers and just forums, and everyone was saying just do the TCU. You'll feel an absolute difference. And holy shit, yeah, I really did. It's a completely different car. I have a P3 gauge in there that has a 0 to 60 timer. I went from a 5.4 seconds 0 to 60 to a 3.8 0 to 60 with just stage 1. No hardware mods, no exhaust, no test pipes, no crankshaft pulleys or supercharger pulleys. Just pure unlocking factory power, basically, because Audi supposedly downtunes the shit out of these things. So definitely recommend stage 1 for you beginners like myself. I do plan on going stage 2 eventually, but that'll be further down the line. Right now I'm kind of focusing more or less on cosmetic mods. So yeah, number 1 thing I like about this car is the absolute raw acceleration. Definitely a sleeper drag car right here for sure. Street drag car, let me correct myself. For sure for sure surprises the hell out of you the first time you drive it. The second thing I like is the aftermarket support. I mean, it's there, man. There's all kinds of parts that are available for this thing. I chose to go the easy route and go with like a lot of the ECS cosmetic stuff, like this diffuser here and this little rear lip, this little top lip right here, and of course my front lip. Highly recommend this guy right here. I mean, it's almost like an OE look. These things I just had them put on, or I put them on myself probably about 2 weeks ago, maybe. Actually, it hasn't even been 2 weeks, and I'm still unsure. It looks like a raised eyebrow kind of, so I might actually take these off. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, there's plenty of aftermarket support. These brakes over here, these aren't actually factory. They don't actually come this way, and that's one of the things that attracted me to this particular car when I was searching for one. Was the previous owner had done the what's it called, the SQ5 brake swap, or I think it's just a regular Q5. Anyway, the Q5s have actual 4-piston front brakes, and these bolt up directly to these cars because these actually come with single piston front brakes. And not that the single piston front brakes are shit or they don't stop well. I mean, I wouldn't know, but I'm sure they do the job just fine. But just look at that. Look at how aggressive that looks. That just looks amazing. So anyway, that's just another aftermarket, quote unquote, or actually it's technically factory, but that's just another thing that you can do that's there. In terms of exhaust, as far as aftermarket support goes, I mean, these cars kind of sound raspy if you go full send, if you go test pipes, if you go full catback, down pipes, the whole nine. Like, it kind of starts to sound a little shitty and raspy. Again, something else the previous owner did to this car, the stock cats are still there. All the resonators have been deleted, and it still has the stock mufflers, and it also has a MagnaFlow. I know, right? MagnaFlow. Ugh. It also has a MagnaFlow mid muffler, and surprisingly, it sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound bad at all. There's no rasp. It's loud enough to make noise when you step on it, but it's quiet enough to not wake everyone up in the neighborhood when you're, leaving for work in the morning. So, if you want to spend $4,000 on an exhaust system on these things, go right ahead. That's your choice. But I just couldn't justify spending $4 grand to sound raspy and loud and obnoxious. So I just went with this particular car because again, some of the hard work was already done. I did, however, have the 4-inch exhaust tips welded on by my homeboy Melvin. He actually hooked me up with that. Pretty good price considering the fact that he had to drop the whole exhaust system all at once in one piece just to weld. Number 3, I'd have to say, sorry, my car's a little fucking nasty, but I'd have to say the interior. I'm gonna turn this on because it's pretty hot outside. I'd have to say the interior from the factory. I mean, here, I'll turn this down so y'all can actually hear me talk. I'd have to say the interior from the factory, I mean, it's not wow, but it's definitely better than most cars. I mean, it's got like factory carbon fiber, you know what I'm saying? This is not aftermarket at all. This is how the car came, with carbon fiber. And it looks pretty legit. Same thing with the way this dash is designed. I mean, it's I don't know if y'all can tell, but if you stick the camera right over here, you can kind of see that it's at a slight angle. It kind of makes it and gives it a bit of a cockpit feel. Cockpit. Did I say that right? Cockpit. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, anyway, and the seats, I mean, here, there's a kid seat right here, so ignore that, but the seats are, you know, factory buckets and whatnot. They look, well, factory buckets, they look kind of sporty and racy, you know, so they're not pretty basic as most Audi seats actually look like. And I do appreciate the you know, the engraved S4. I don't know if that's engraved and printed or stitched in. I don't know how you would call that. Perks of growing up speaking 2 languages, I guess. But yeah, the interior, I'm very satisfied. My biggest selling point for this car was, well, one of the bigger selling points was the black headliner. A lot of cars are doing tan and gray and all kinds of ugly colors. I'm a mechanic. I turn wrenches for a living, and I get greasy, and you know, my hands are nasty. So when I get in the car and I sit here and I touch stuff, I leave fingerprints all over the damn place, and it just drives me crazy. So black headliner is definitely an absolute must for me. I also like that I can actually see out of the back window, and I can kind of see really well from my blind spot back here. This car does have blind spot monitor. So this, I don't know if y'all can see, well, yeah, you should be able to. There's a little LED thing back here that flashes at you. If you got the turn signal on and there's a car in your blind spot, it'll flash like crazy to let you know not to turn there. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it's obviously a lot of new cars have stuff like that, but it's new to me. So and I just love, again, my car is a little nasty down here, but I just love these pedals, the little chrome trim down here. I think that's about it for the things that I really like about it. So I'm gonna go over what I don't like about it, and I'm gonna start in the interior since I'm here. Number one, there is no leg room for people sitting in the back seat. Again, ignore all that rubber and trash down there. But there's hardly any room here. I'll actually show you guys. I'll walk over here and act as if I was a passenger. So you got my car seat, right? And the poor bastard that has to sit back here is already getting dug in on their side by the car seat that's in the middle. But if I was to close the door, like, this is it. This is what you got. You got hardly any leg room. I'm 6'2". So I'm a pretty tall guy. My head is like maybe a 1/4 inch from the roof right here. And as y'all can see, it's pretty smushed. It's pretty smushed back here. So it's not a very comfortable ride for multiple passengers. So, does that really matter for me, for a new parent right now? Not really, because he's really small and he's gonna stay in this car seat for a minute. And you know, when he does get old enough to get out of the car seat, he'll have a decent sized back seat. But for anyone who's full sized like myself, not very practical. Another thing I dislike about it, this is really a small thing. It doesn't really matter that much, but the way you turn the dial and the way the display changes, it just kind of doesn't make sense. All right, so you would think that a drop-down menu like this, you would have to turn the knob right to go down, but no, you have to turn the knob left to go down. That's weird to me, and every Audi that I have ever serviced has been like this. So I don't know, that's just a nitpick thing. If that doesn't bother you, whatever. Yeah, the car still functions, but yeah, that's just how it is. So whatever. So that's the second thing I dislike about this car. The third thing is, unless you do a rear sway bar upgrade, which most people Most people don't think about that. Most people, they buy the car with the sport differential, which allows the whole torque vectoring thing, and it allows the car to handle much better in tight cornering, tight mountains, tight whatever, right? If you have a regular differential like I have, the car understeers really, really bad. And this is my first all-wheel drive car. And I know a lot of all-wheel drive cars understeer. That's just what they kind of do. Especially coming from a fully upgraded rear-wheel drive car that I had, a fully upgraded suspension. I mean, that car was on rails with the right set of tires. This car, I highly recommend you do a rear sway bar upgrade. I mean, it's night and day. The way the car steers, the way it just turns. I don't understand how stiffening the rear end just kind of allows the front end to just do whatever the hell it's supposed to do. But yeah, highly recommend you do a rear sway bar upgrade. It's an absolute must. Didn't expect that when I bought this car, but it's whatever. It turns out that it's not that expensive of an upgrade. It's like $250 for the sway bar, maybe another $250 for the solid rear sway links, which I also highly recommend because the stock ones are plastic. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, it's not that bad of an upgrade, but still, you know, you got to spend $500 just to fucking be able to turn fast. But it's whatever. It definitely makes the car funner to drive and worth it. But anyway, that's another dislike I don't like about it. Number 4, I'd have to say maintenance. These cars are not fucking cheap to maintain at all. You can run cheap stuff in them, but I wouldn't recommend it, because if something breaks down because you ran something cheap in here, this is not going to be cheap to fix. I mean, on average, I do all the maintenance myself, but on average it costs me probably $80 to $100 just to change the oil. And I run liquid moly in this motherfucker. I don't typically run Castrol or Mobil 1, which there's nothing wrong with that. You can run that stuff. This engine has high mileage. I want to give it the absolute best shot it's got in terms of longevity. You know, I don't want it to shit out on me in any way, shape, or form, because these get really expensive. For instance, these cars are direct injected, which means that your intake valves are not getting fuel sprayed over them like regular cars or regular injected cars. So they absolutely don't get any type of cleaning, and then all the carbon deposits from the PCV valve get cycled right back into the intake manifold and down into those intake valves, and they get all clogged up and all jammed up. I went to Audi and I asked how much, because I no longer work in a shop. I asked how much would it cost to do a intake valve walnut carbon cleaning, and they quoted me about $1,800 because you have to remove a lot of stuff. And you know, anything that's really highly labor intensive for Audi, you're gonna pay probably well over $200 an hour for labor alone. So yeah, just something to think about. You know, maintenance is not cheap on these things. A DSG fluid exchange for the full service, close to $300 in parts alone, and that was like aftermarket stuff. It wasn't even like factory stuff. So factory, I think, was close to like over $500-600. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was very, very, very pricey. But good thing is ECS Tuning has a lot of maintenance kits that they offer that are aftermarket. Thing is, yeah, unlike a Nissan with a VQ in it, this is very maintenance heavy. You have to be spot on and key on with your maintenance. You can't go over on the mileage on the oil changes. Volkswagen and Audi, they do recommend you change your oil every 10,000 miles. I say that's fucking crazy. That's horseshit. I don't recommend that you wait that long, especially on a car with this high mileage. The max I would say you should ever push this, regardless of the quality of oil you put into it, is 5,000 miles. And hell, even 3,000, depending on if you're burning oil or losing oil or whatever the fuck your case may be. Yeah, that's really it as far as things I like and don't like about this. I love this car so far, and very satisfied with it. Again, I bought it at 100,000 miles and I put 12,000 miles on it, and I've beaten the shit out of it, and it has not really given me any problems. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope this video was very helpful. Peace.